Hello, friends, and welcome to the Secrets of a Witch podcast with me, Sabrina Scott, where I talk all about life, love, healing, spirituality, witchcraft, magic, tarot, feminine energy, good vibes, and everything in between, as we do. So, hopefully everyone is doing good. For today's topic, since we are now firmly in the middle of October, I wanted to talk a little bit about spooky season and a phrase that gets thrown around a lot. And I feel like it's been years since I've ranted about this. So I feel like most of the juice probably has already been squeezed out of this rant now that I am old and don't really care about too much of this stuff. But I'm just going to talk about it briefly anyway, because I think it is kind of a fun topic. So it's October. So if October had a bingo card, definitely at least somewhere on there, it would say, the veil is thinning. The veil is thin right now. The veil is thin in October. So if you exist on the internet, if you're in the witchy internet, the witchy spiritual space on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. I don't believe in TikTok, so I don't know what goes on over there. But I know it definitely gets passed around on Instagram, this phrase, or at least it did a lot a few years ago. And so I wanted to talk a bit about this. And so usually when people say this, the veil is thin right now, what do they mean? They tend to mean that the realm between the physical, the tactile, and the spiritual it's a bit easier to access the spiritual from the physical, right? That there's an overlap always, but that it's a bit easier to make contact around now. And that is why we see so many people talking about tarot right now, mediumship, ancestor work, and obviously I'm doing the same thing because it is on everyone's mind. Everyone's in the mood, and I get it. I'm also getting in the mood for all of that stuff. So I get it, and I'm participating, and it's cool. But one of the things I want to talk about is, like, first of all, how silly this phrase kind of is. Like, have you guys ever seen a thick veil? Like, I haven't personally ever seen a thick veil. Like, I've only ever seen veils that were thin. So to say, like, the veil is thin right now, it's like, I know what it's trying to say in this kind of pseudo-poetic way. Like, I get the concept, but it always kind of makes me laugh because, like, a veil is inherently kind of thin in the scheme of things. And then the other thing I wanted to say is, well, the veil is kind of always thin if we have the right skill sets, if we develop the right, like, spiritual vocabularies, the right spiritual tools, the right practices that can help us tune into that spiritual realm and feel and notice energy a lot more than maybe we did in the past. And so in reality, like, I do think that anyone can access the other side, spirituality, spiritual beings, energy. Anyone can access that anytime they want, whether it's Halloween, All Saints Day, the middle of December, the middle of July. The spiritual and the energies and everything, all of that is always there, ready to be observed, listened to, felt. It's always there. And so a big part of what I teach is, and I've always taught this, is that is, like, that's there for you. It's always present. So this whole, like, the veil is thin right now thing, on one hand, is kind of not really true, because the veil is always thin if you have the right skill set, and that can be developed in anybody. But then the flip side is, and I think this is really important, is that one of the things that can help spiritual vibes be noticed a lot more easily is if people move with more intention around it, more awareness around it, and when people are kind of in the mood to access that. which does tend to happen more around October, right? Like we're kind of, our spidey senses are tingling. Literally, there's like a giant spider building a giant web outside my place. I'm sorry guys, but I killed 2 spiders in my apartment over the last few days. So I feel like the spider energy is very present right now. The spooky season energy is like for sure a thing at the moment. And so a lot of us are kind of primed psychologically, energetically, spiritually, physically even. Like, I know my body is craving like cozy blankets, like, I don't know, apple spice and all of this stuff. Like, I'm in the zone for fall. Like, I'm fully ready. I'm ready, my friends. And all of that kind of outside physical stuff, all of those outside physical influences can actually help open us up psychologically, physically, mentally, spiritually to notice with a higher degree of skill, of depth, the energy that is always kind of swirling around us. And so it's one of those things where it's like when people are like, oh, the veil is thin. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, it can be thin anytime. But I do think that element of people being primed for a spiritual experience is also something that changes the recipe, right? Like, if you think about it, like, if we can use the analogy of like cooking, let's say, if you're feeling kind of uninspired and you're like, I don't really... Like, I want to eat something delicious, but I'm not really feeling that inspired. It's like the middle of summer. Like, I don't know. All I have is stuff for soup. So I guess I'll make a soup, but then I'm going to have to be over this boiling hot stove, stirring this hot soup. It's going to be hot and sweaty, and I'm probably not even going to be in the mood for soup, but I guess I'm going to do it, right? So, like, that's option A as an example. Option B. It's like the middle of October, the leaves are starting to turn, you're pulling out your sweaters for the first time from, I don't know, the storage from whence they came. Your neighbors are decorating their lawns with pumpkins and Halloween decorations. You go to an apple orchard or a pumpkin patch with some of your friends and you grab some like stuff off the vine in your plaid flannel and your boots and your cute scarf, and you come home and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of hungry. I kind of want to make a soup. Like, why don't I use one of those pumpkins I got from the pumpkin patch? Oh my God, it's going to be so exciting. And you wear your cozy outfit over the hot thing of soup and you're like excited, you're stirring, you get all creative, you put in some spices and you're like, oh my God, this is the best soup ever. And so both of those actions are like making soup over a hot stove, right? But notice how different the setup is. The summertime setup, you're kind of like, oh, like I'm not really in the mood. Like, it's kind of hot as it is. Like, I kind of am not in the vibe. I'm going to do this anyway because I need to eat. And so the energy of that is going to be like kind of more blah. It's going to be a bit more lackluster. It's going to be like not that inspired. And the soup probably isn't going to taste that good. And you're probably just not going to care. It will be food, right? It will save you a trip to the grocery store or $20 or $30 on like food delivery. But in the fall, the October pumpkin example, you're excited for the soup because it's cold out and your sweater, you just got a new sweater and you just got the pumpkin from the pumpkin patch and you feel all cozy and it feels like fun. The feeling around it is totally different. You're going to approach it with more reverence, more excitement. You're going to really cherish and relish every moment in that process, even if you're not a big chef at home, because it just feels fun and kind of seasonal. You're like in the mood. And when you're in the mood for something, when you're primed to anticipate and enjoy something, then the results are going to be a little bit different because it changes the recipe. It changes the equation. It changes the energies that are swirling around in that moment. And so as much as we all want to make fun of the people who are like, oh my God, the veil is thin in October, because it like makes no sense because veils are always thin. At the same time as this ridiculousness of that phrase, it also kind of makes sense for the reasons that I've just explained. because there is something to be said for the impact of being psychologically primed for a certain vibe. And if you associate spirituality and ghosts and spirits and, spookiness and divination and tarot cards and witches with October, your whole subconscious, your whole energy body, all of you, your mental, right? Like your brain, all of those little bits coming together to make you is more primed to have a spiritual experience. So your ability to sense is probably going to be expanded because of those reasons alone. Even if the thinness of the veil is the same, let's say all year round, which I don't even know if that's necessarily true. Like it's interesting to me that cultures around the world have had like celebrations around communicating with the dead around the same time every year. Like I do find that very interesting, that maybe everyone is picking up on a similar thing where the overlap does change in some way. I do think that's an interesting thing, because I don't really know if that's a coincidence. Like probably not, to be honest. But regardless of what the veil is doing, I think the fact that we are responding to these different vibes, like the symbols that are around us, the energy, the weather, all of that is going to create a different type of spiritual experience because we are so ready for it. And many of us are craving it. Like I know a lot of people who aren't even very spiritual or very witchy who love Halloween and who would probably go out on a limb to go do something spiritual around this time, just because they're feeling lucky, they're feeling adventurous, they're feeling a little bit more like exploring something they maybe haven't explored before. And so I think that's something that's important to consider around now, right? So if you are someone who does want to get in touch with your spirituality, like now is a really good time to think about doing that, because your brain, your psychology is so primed for it, because our bodies are in this anticipation of Halloween and fall and all of the vibes. So embrace it, my friends. Like there's no reason to poo-poo or insult or like make fun of these people who say these things. This is kind of fun, right? Like I think there definitely was a time in my life where I was happy to be a bit more snarky about it, but now I'm just like, whatever, let's all have a good time and enjoy this season, because it only happens once a year. And so I'm curious, what are you guys doing to get yourselves in the mood this year? Are you going to a pumpkin patch? I have not done that yet this year, but I really want to. I think it'll be really fun. I went to an apple orchard recently, and my friend and I talked about going pear picking, which I think will be really fun. And I just love like seasonal stuff like that, like butternut squash, any kind of squash, like root vegetables. There's something really nice about all of that right now. Like I just love this seasonal autumn thing in North America. It's a vibe. So if you want to learn a little bit more about spiritual stuff, I do have some things going on this month. As in the previous episode of this podcast, I do have the Ancestor Magic Masterclass happening on October 29th. On October 30th, I'm also teaching a live masterclass, Tarot for Mediumship. I'll do an episode about that shortly. That is on the 30th from 7 to 9. The one on the 29th is 5 to 7, both Eastern time. Of course, if you sign up, you'll get the recording forever. So if you can't come live, that's totally okay. Don't freak out. You'll still get the benefit of the recording until you die. The recording will live. I will give it to you. There is no expiry, is what I'm trying to say. And the price for those is $250 per or $350 for both. So you save a ton of money, $150 if you sign up for both, which I would really recommend. It's going to be super badass and super fun. And this is my area of expertise. Like, I don't know if you guys know this about me, but this is like kind of my thing. I've been in for a really long time. Spirit work, ancestor work, mediumship. This is my jam. And so I'm really excited to share this with you guys. And it's going to be super, super fun. If you want to sign up for either, I'm going to put the links to those in the description here. So you'll be able to click those super easily, whether you're listening to this on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of the other ones. I've tried to upload this kind of everywhere. So if you've got any questions about any of that, you can send me a DM on Instagram, Sabrina M. Scott. Send me an email, ceo@sabrinamscott.com. I'm happy to answer your questions about any of that. And then, of course, Tarot Without Bullshit is launching on the 24th of October. More on that soon. But I do want to get you guys thinking more about the tarot. How can you work with that to improve your life? And how can you work with the tarot to connect with the other side? More on that soon. Okay, friends, that's it for now. If you love the podcast, please share it with a friend. Please leave a happy 5-star review. Please spread the word. It really, really does help, and it means the world to me that you guys like the show and are willing to share it with other people. So all I'm trying to do here is help you guys, give you guys some advice to connect with yourselves, connect with your spirituality, and at the end of the day, improve your lives, improve your relationship to your health and wellness, whether that is mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, all of that stuff, because as we all know, it is all connected. Okay, friends, that is all for now. Feel free to say hello at sabrinamscott.com, and I'll chat with you guys soon. Bye.